If you have a look at BYD stock right now, it looks a little bit overvalued. Its price to earnings are nearly 170, which seems kind of insane. But BYD just disclosed one thing that nobody is talking about. I don't know why. Nobody seems to have noticed, but I think it's the most important thing that BYD has unofficially said in at least 2 years. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. It's great to have you here. I think I've made more videos about BYD than any other channel on the face of planet Earth. At least I'm winning in one way, right? Now, before I get to it, I want to say a big thank you to all of you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for supporting the channel. It means a lot to me. And thank you for supporting my son's channel as well. That's amazing. If you're wondering about that, who that is or what that is, I'll put a link in the description below to their channel. BYD, what did they just do? They just dispelled, well, the bogus nonsense that I've seen on YouTube, which is being sprouted by who? Well, to be fair, to be totally honest with you, disappointingly, it's being sprouted by Tesla fans. They say, not all of them, of course, not all Tesla fans are crazy. I'm one of them. And I'm not crazy, or am I? Anyway, they say, some of the naysayers, that BYD can't make a profit from selling EVs. And in fact, there's one very particular Tesla YouTube channel, which no one knows who the guy is. He's completely anonymous, won't expose himself because, I don't know, for fear of ridicule. Who knows? I get ridiculed all the time. You just have to accept that on YouTube. But he claims, according to his unofficial information, I don't know where he got this, that BYD does not make a profit from selling electric cars. Now, as you know, I disagree. They don't make a big profit. They might not make any profit at all on some of them. But we now know that they do, in fact, make a profit. At least they have over the last quarter. How do we know that? Well, they have just disclosed some pretty interesting information. BYD announced yesterday that it expects net profit in the first quarter of 2022 to total between $102 million US and $150 million US. That's an increase of 174% to 300% year on year. So at worst, BYD is saying their profit will have increased 174%, at best 300%. Now, it's pretty clear. The majority, right? The majority of their operations now are vehicle sales. You couldn't have said that in the past, but now their vehicle sales are just going ballistic. We can now see that, yes, there's different parts of their business. Yes, they do build mobile phone handsets. Yes, they do batteries as well and battery megapacks, but clearly the majority of their business is electric cars. The only way for them to make a profit, right, is if those cars were now selling at a profit, which is awesome to see if you're a BYD investor like I am. Now, I can't give you guys here in Australia advice on investing. Otherwise, I could get slapped with I think it's like $1 million fine, something crazy like that. But I can tell everyone else outside of Australia that you should invest in BYD. That's what I'm doing right now, because I think BYD stock is actually undervalued. If you put like a forward price to earnings on the stock for what it'll be at by the end of this year, I think their price to earnings might drop to around about 70, which means one of the greatest growth stories of the decade is currently pretty cheap. BYD's production of electric vehicles in March was 106,650. They overtook Volkswagen easily. They smashed them out of the park. They're now the second largest electric vehicle manufacturer on the face of the earth, and they sure as hell are not slowing down. Those numbers gave them a year-on-year increase of 417%. Now, what about from January to March? Well, BYD sold 286,300 new energy vehicles, an increase of 423%. That's an even faster growth rate than Tesla. Now, BYD said in an announcement on Monday that in the first quarter of 2022, despite adverse effects from the macroeconomic downturn in China, local pandemic breakouts, and other factors, that their electric vehicle industry generally continued rapid growth momentum. In fact, aside from, I'm just going to get to it, right? We know that their sales are going crazy. We know that, right? We know that they're selling every EV they can make. But I think more important than that, are these two things. One, we know they now have more than 100,000 pre-orders, right? Now, we also know that they have the ability to manufacture those cars. Even if they don't today, they have a number of factories coming online this year. Not just factories to build the cars. They have other factories to build the batteries. They have a 100 gigawatt hour battery factory coming online this year. Volkswagen will be left for dead. They will never ever catch BYD again. Just isn't going to happen. They don't have the capacity and the ability to do so. So BYD is saying this new sales volume, in other words, they make more, right? The more you make, the lower the costs are, right? That's what happens. This is what is happening right now for Tesla and BYD. They're making more, their costs are actually coming down. Look at Tesla's profit over the last year. It's only increased, right? Per vehicle, it's increasing. The same thing is happening here at BYD. No one is saying this. Why? I don't know. Now, the interesting thing is, here is even more evidence that BYD is making a good profit from the EVs. In the first quarter of this year, BYD's smartphone components and assembly business was under immense pressure. Due to weak demand in the industry, the company's capacity utilization rate was low and the profit of this sector was squeezed. One important thing to keep in mind as well, BYD no longer makes internal combustion engine vehicles only, gas-powered vehicles only. It doesn't do it anymore. It doesn't need to try and get rid of factories, right, that make those types of vehicles. It doesn't need to write off billions of dollars in product lines making those vehicles. Yes, it will need to do some write-offs within a few years once people don't want plug-in hybrids anymore, but those losses will be nothing compared to its competitors in the West. In addition, BYD utilizes only lithium iron phosphate batteries. Huge advantage. It doesn't have to pay for nickel, which is worth more than gold right now. At present, affected by the rising prices of upstream raw materials, the prices of batteries have gone crazy, which has brought huge cost pressures to a number of different car companies. BYD has been largely immune from those cost pressures. In addition to that, BYD manufactures its own chips, right? So it hasn't had any problems with that area. A global chip shortage continues to affect the production capacity of many enterprises. And coupled with the recent pandemic situation in many places in China, some core component enterprises have stopped production. Logistics have been blocked, and even short-term supply has been cut off. The same thing is happening to Volkswagen, to Toyota, to Ford, to BMW, all these guys, right? BYD will be largely untouched. They control their own destiny. And it's under these conditions that BYD's supply chain advantages really stand out. Yi Shengyi, Chief Engineer and Deputy Secretary General of China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, CAAM, said in an interview with Securities Daily that BYD has laid out across the power battery industry. It's now the third largest battery manufacturer in the world and has independently developed semiconductors, which has obvious massive advantages in terms of supply chains for the new energy vehicle industry. This can help the company balance prices through its own supply chain layout, while the price of raw material keeps on rising. Remember, right? Yesterday, Rivian's CEO, RJ Scaringe, warned that battery shortages are going to make the chip supply issue we have right now look like a small, tiny appetizer. He's saying battery shortages are going to hit the industry massively. Well, BYD will just go, okay, have fun fighting over batteries while we make our own. So you can see now why I've invested in BYD. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.